The Houthis surrender to Trump. Is that a question? Wow. I don't know. I can't even believe the Houthis have enough food to. I mean, like Yemen, the Jews of Yemen left in the 1950s and 60s because Jewish people were not safe in any of the Muslim countries. And so we had the first immigration to Israel was predominantly white people from Europe escaping the Holocaust. And so I think there was this, or people from Eastern Europe that helped with the early founding of Israel during, 19, 18 something, was it 1864 or something when they first, maybe it wasn't that early, but late 19th century, they started coming in from Eastern Europe. But then subsequent waves of Jewish migration was from North Africa, Yemen and Morocco, Iraq, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt. So now Israel has a nice blend of Jewish people from all over the world. But it amazes me, considering how poor uh, the Houthis are, how poor Yemen is, and the amount of bombing that the U.S. and Saudi Arabia has engaged in Yemen, and we still have a problem with the Houthi, which of course are being armed by Iran. But we also have a problem with Qatar, and Qatar has been funding quite a bit of terrorism, and Al Jazeera, which is pro-Hamas, because it's a Wahhabi government, has also been creating some problems, which is why a lot of people have stopped watching Al Jazeera, which is a shame because they do some good coverage. But all right, let's take a look at the Houthi and whether or not they are going to lose this battle. I think they need to take care of their families and stop trying to, I don't know, declare war on everybody. I don't know. They have been attacking ships that are leaving from the Suez Canal, Western trade. And it goes back, of course, to what we've said, is that it always goes back to trade. All these wars are really about trade. And they've always been about trade from the time of the Silk Road, even before the Silk Road. All right. There is a real concern here by the Trump administration that this is going to turn into a wider conflict, because ultimately it's a trade war. So the response here is the Four of Pentacles. You can see the Four of Pentacles, which has to do with frugality. There's how broke is the United States? If we're selling weapons, isn't that money that we can then use? I don't know. Why doesn't the money come back to us? We sell the weapons, and instead it goes back to, I don't know, the companies that make it, that have contracts. But Four of Pentacles would be this desire by Trump. He doesn't want to get into a wider political issue. It's like, okay, I bombed Iran, so that's it. You got to work it out for yourselves. I mean, this real constriction. And we also have here, his opposition is offering peace. The question is, can we believe that peace is going to happen? But this is emissaries of peace, and so diplomats are trying desperately to keep this from happening. And then we have a contract here with this diplomat. And then Four of Wands is seen as a new beginning. Its time is the spring. I don't think of Trump as being in a position of being brave here with a Four of Pentacles. This is the guy that's cowering in a corner saying, well, I don't want to pay for that. I really believe that the Abraham Accords, which opens up new trade routes, and ultimately, how do you get to peace? By making people investors in peace. I really think that once we have a commitment to the Abraham Accords and opening up trade and friendly relations with those communities that want to be a part of it, we're going to be moving in a different direction, because war is causing everybody to go bankrupt. It's impacting our trade routes. It's impacting everything. This Four of Wands can also be a 4-month period. So it's moving towards diplomats, a new contract, and the beginnings of something positive. So, but the main thing is, I just hear very clearly that he does not want to be part of a wider conflict. Iran's bounty on Trump's head is 30 million today. See, that's an act of war. You know, if you're if you're saying you're trying to kill the president of the United States, then we can assume that that is an act of war against the United States. So it goes back to what the computers have said, that this is not a government that we can negotiate with. It's not a government that we can work with. That the only way out of this is that the Iranian government has to fall. The only thing that happens when you attack the Iranian government is that they become more determined to kill more of us. It's something that's very much entrenched in this government. So the Iranian bounty on Trump's head, justice, the Queen of Truth, the Queen of Swords is moving into 7th position. Opposition is the 7 of Wands. So it's not so much that the United States sees itself as violent, so much as wanting to defend itself against attack. So if there's a response from the United States, it's a defensive stance rather than an aggressive stance. He could be trying to do a deal similar to the one that Obama made, but the deal that Obama made didn't work because they just used the weapons to build up their army and attack Israel with Hezbollah in the north. And then he made the mistake of pulling U.S. troops out of Syria, which made Israel even more vulnerable. But we have this Ace of Pentacles coming in, which is almost like bribing them not to kill Americans, taking the weapons of war away from the other, a new beginning for Iran, the hopes and fears, loss of temper or emotional a temper attitude, or anger, loss of balance, loss of temper, and the sword of truth. It speaks to a real hesitation on the part of the Trump administration to be in an all-out war, and that they're going to do everything they can to be diplomatic, and even bribing. But the fall of Iran is inevitable. It must happen if we want to have regional peace, because they're a global threat and they're determined to have nuclear weapons. And the first thing that they're going to do with the nuclear weapons is bomb Israel, which of course will kill all the Palestinians too, in addition to bombing U.S. targets, Western targets, etc. So the truth of Archangel Michael comes, a need for sobriety or calm, taking the weapons away. I feel good about the future of Iran because 10 of Cups is auspicious. And it goes back to what the data showed, that the Iranian government will fall and that the new government will emerge. Reports of hundreds of Abrams tanks on the Polish-Ukraine border with U.S. troops on standby. Oh, you guys, what do you think? Did the computer get it right? Did the computer get it right? What did the computer say? It said we were gonna, march on Moscow, right? We're marching on Moscow. If we cannot, look, containing Putin is inevitable. Would you agree? Would you agree that at this time, Putin is the most dangerous man alive? We're moving towards step 4, right? What's interesting about step 3, which is part of the Abraham Accords, is people adopting Oasis Protocol. So now we have 5 sheik on the West Bank that want a 2-state solution and to be part of the Abraham Accords. So that's exciting, and it's moving us in step 3. Ceasefire won't happen until we can ensure safe passage for Hamas out of Gaza, right? So, is the computer psychic? Is artificial intelligence psychic? Is that what's happening here? Do we have psychic supercomputers with psychic powers that marvel the Oracle of Whimsy? Or is something else, is something called pure math going on? Why is the computer calling this pure math? Because if you have an action, you're going to get a reaction, right? So if things continue in this trajectory, you're going to have a lot of people die, right? So this was calculated by supercomputers in December 19th of 2023, right? Sent to the IDF and to Joe Biden right around that time, right? So Biden adopted the first 3, which was known as the Biden plan, right? Do you think secretly Biden was also trying to, that they were working on 4 and 5, even though it wasn't public information? You can't really come out and say that, can you? Probably, yes. Because when you have somebody like Putin and he's got his finger on the trigger and there's no stopgap, that's a problem. Now, this was before Trump became the president. I could probably go in and try and recalculate if Trump is the most dangerous person alive, but I don't think it would say that because Trump appears in these cards to be risk adverse and he doesn't want to go to war. Also, there are stopgaps in the United States, right? So people that will not follow certain orders, theoretically, we would like to think so. But you don't really have that in Russia. And so consequently, this is the reason why there's this urgency that comes up with step 4 about the removal of Putin. Now we have Trump threatening to bomb Moscow. And what I had said a couple of years ago when I was working on this was that we're going to march on Moscow. If the Russian people themselves cannot put a stop to this and remove Putin, then the West will remove Putin, and we will see the West marching on Moscow. My next question to you, it's terrifying when you look at the math, isn't it? This is what we do if we want to prevent World War III, right? The sooner we can get to ceasefire, the sooner we can dismantle Russian and Iranian leadership. Of course, Elon Musk didn't agree with me about phase 4. That's not, you can't just go dismantle a guy that's popular. Well, he's not popular anymore with his people. That was maybe true 2-3 years ago. That's not true today. You guys want to talk about it? What are y'all thinking? How do you feel about that when you see it in black and white? Is it disturbing? Yes. It's very, very, very disturbing. Right? All right. So let's take a look at whether or not we are going to be marching on Moscow. Looks like it's inevitable. Grok thinks it's inevitable, right? Supercomputers think it's inevitable. Let's take a look. The West and its response to Russia. Trump has no filter. I'm going to bomb the shit out of Moscow, right? Like he has no filter. The Western response is the higher ethos. So you can be sure in this case, Congress and the Constitution. So well, before we can't go to war unless we're attacked first, right? So you have this higher ethos. When it's when it's the United States, you think about the Constitution or the higher ethos. The opposition, Putin is patient. So for him, it's like a chess game, right? He sees this as a chess game. Hopes and fears to defend. Again, this is a defensive stance rather than an aggressive stance where we might see the Knight of Wands, charge. Seven of Wands is you're only defending your territory. So this is seen morally and ethically as the right thing to do because Zelensky is merely defending himself from an invasion that could be expanding to other areas, Georgia, Chechnya, Belarus, Poland, etc. Anybody feel any way about that? Agree, not agree? Think it'll all work itself out and we should just go home and let them take care of it themselves? Let them invade Western Europe, right? The final outcome is war, charge. Remember what we had said about the Knight of Wands. Frightening. Isn't the cards frightening how we're going to war? We're marching on Moscow. Do you think that Putin did this to himself? What happened to Putin? Why is Putin so crazy that he's letting, 7,500 people died last week? Russians? America is entering the war. Knight of Wands. The clarification, we will be victorious. So it will be sanctioned by the Constitution, NATO, it'll be sanctioned by Congress. The opposition, let's make peace. He's insincere. So any peace efforts by Putin are insincere. They are attempts to make money. Remember, go back to what the computer said. Do not make a deal with them for normalization because the money will only be used to attack the West. Do not make a deal with Iran and Russia for normal relations in exchange for profits, right? You give me I want to be a friend. I will not, you pay me not to kill you. So what do I do with the money? I make more bombs to finish the job in 6 months, right? So round and round and round we go with the data. And this is why the conclusion is so disturbing for me when I was playing with the computer to try and figure this out, is because number 6 really got me. You cannot do a deal and you cannot pay them not to kill you because the money you give them will be money to kill you. This is how much they hate you. The hope and the fear is smoother waters to get the situation. This is a real desire to avoid war, and the final outcome is war. Charge and then war. We're going to war with Russia. At this point, how weak is Russia right now? Pretty weak, right? Archangel Michael. If you're Catholic, pray to Archangel Michael. Or if you're part of the Eastern Orthodox Church, Ukrainian Church, which is protected by Archangel Michael, which they just excommunicated everybody that's part of that church from the Russian church. Like, you think that that's going to upset them at this point? We don't get to be part of your mafia church, right? So yeah, unfortunately, I got to tell you the truth. There's no nice way to paint the Knight of Swords. It's very likely that we are going to march on Moscow. Gosh, I don't know what to say about that. I am. What is Trump hiding in his health report? Well, if you're just asking me as a doctor, I would say he's at high risk of type 2 diabetes, geriatric diabetes, which has a high correlation with Alzheimer's. In fact, Alzheimer's is called diabetes of the brain because high levels of sugar can do damage to nerve tissue, which is why people get neuropathy if they're diabetic. Well, the same thing is happening in the brain. The brain loves sugar, right? Because the brain requires a lot of energy, and so it soaks up that sugar, right? And the heart soaks up sugar, it soaks up fatty acids, which is why hearts tend to accumulate fat because it stores it for later use, which is also why you're at risk of a heart attack, because we used to not eat domesticated animals with all this fat. So my feeling is that he is most likely looking at coronary artery disease. He's probably had a stent placed, probably Plavix. He's probably got type 2 diabetes. He could be on blood thinners, which is why his skin bruises easily. Let's take a look. 3 of Swords would be coronary artery disease. Moon would be, Moon and 7 of Cups are cards I use for loss of mental faculties. In the clouds, spaced out. Trump's health. First card is the Hierophant. All right, interesting. And his issue is, so he's having issues with the courts right now. So this is more talking about his issues with the courts. 7 of Cups. This would indicate also that he may be somebody that he lives in his own world. So the main issue that comes up for him is he could be in a fantasy world of the Queen of Cups. Let me do a clarification on this. I'm going to do one more. Trump's health challenges at this time. What are his physical health challenges at this time? Trump's health challenges. Lovers. Here's Trump. The main thing I'm picking up here is that he doesn't trust his own leadership should he not be able to serve. So he doesn't trust Vance. He doesn't trust anybody to take over in his place. So he's a bit of a control freak. I'm not getting a lot on his health today. This is more about power issues. Yeah, power issues, fear. For whatever reason, I'm not getting anything on his health. But I can tell you intellectually, he is, probably looking at coronary artery disease, diabetes, and mental decline because of being probably diabetic. Because he's overweight, because of his diet. It'd be highly unlikely when you're pushing 80 that you wouldn't have those challenges. All right, will Hegseth be fired soon? Let's take a look. I'm thinking yes. I think withholding aid to Ukraine and then not telling Trump, that evidently infuriated Trump because it made him look bad. And then he found out it was his own administration after the fact. So that, if it were me, I'd fire Hegseth, but let's take a look. Hegseth's future. Yeah. You can see the tower coming in for Hegseth. Trump does not like alcohol, and he does not like men who become sloppy drunks. He finds it undignified. He thinks it's a sign of weakness. And if this in and of itself would cause him to have disdain for Hegseth. Get it together, man. He really does not like this kind of behavior. hopes and fears. Queen of Cups, that delusion, also this is cups. It could indicate drinking, or Six of Pentacles showing him mercy, but also there's justice here. Yeah, he's an alcoholic. This is Hegseth. This is also a crash when you hit rock bottom. You can see the addiction there. Both of these are major arcana. Make sure, by the way, if you're at the Elders and Empaths level, we teach Tarot to members at the Elders and Empaths level. Sunday, 5 o'clock would be great. That's Pacific Daylight Time. It'd be great to see you in class. Right now we have, I think, 100 students. It's a lot of fun. You should join us. Yeah, so Hegseth he's an alcoholic. The problem with the devil is that you can't stop. You're chained. You're chained to the addiction. And he's got it. The guy is hitting rock bottom. The fact that Trump presents as, Trump doesn't present as aggressive in these cards. He's always the guy that doesn't want to, he doesn't want to have conflict. He's actually surprisingly avoids conflict. Yeah, the man who's in his cups in the grave. There's a health crash here. Somebody's replacing him. I'm seeing a replacement. Yeah, he's going. God, I think that Trump will ask for his resignation. Then you don't have to fire him. But yes, he will be asked for resignation because this guy comes. There's a new partnership here with a new man, King of Wands. You have this crash here. The man in his cups is in the grave. New guys coming in. Also, there's something about a woman. There's some kind of woman or something. Other people in Hegseth's department have been reporting on him. So if there were problems in the Pentagon, if there are issues, then this would indicate possibly new leadership and also a reporting of some type and a new partnership with somebody else, the King of Wands. Yeah, Hegseth's going to get fired. Probably asked to resign. Go take care of yourself. Oh, boy. Is July the tipping point for Trump? August looks bad. We can only not avoid war for so long with that kind of data. If the data is saying you got to march on, I don't want to. People won't like me. I don't want to go to war. It goes against my branding. The only thing you're doing is the longer you delay not dismantling Putin and our Iranian leadership, the more people die. Who do you think is funding all of this chaos? Let's look at the next month for Trump. The next month for Trump. Not looking good, people. That's what I think. It is not looking good. The tipping point for Trump. July. July for Trump is poverty and abandonment. The main thing I would say is that the big, beautiful bill probably cost him his fan base. That and the ICE, what ICE is doing, where people are getting arrested that are people that thought they were U.S. citizens. But this is a card of poverty and abandonment. So I think what we really see here is that these are the lowest numbers he's ever had, even during his first term. So, could he have done something to have saved his brand? Probably not, because he was promising things that simply didn't have anything to do with reality. He was promising an end to the trade war. He created another trade war, right? So he was promising things that he really couldn't give us. The opposition to Trump is Ace of Cups. I think, what do you all think about this America First party? It only needs 1 or 2% support to cost the Republicans the next several elections. Research shows that MAGA would be turning towards America First because that was the motto of America First. What does this also go back to earlier remotes that said that basically Elon was going to take down the Republican Party? The great irony is that he insults MAGA left and right, and then who ends up joining America first? MAGA. Love. There's love on the horizon. Hopes and fears. God, he's still having legal issues? This is like the courts and the sword of truth and justice. Final outcome, he flees like a thief. I don't see him staying in the White House. Abandoned, too, Five of Pentacles. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the remotes where Lindsey Graham says, we give you the honor of resigning. Are we back there again? The duty has fallen on me to inform you that we have reached a consensus in the Senate. We give you an honor of resigning. That was the vision.